relationships with recruiters, you'll get more out of that relationship.
One, two, three, four. Three, two, one, yeah.
Today I have somebody who I am really looking forward to introducing you to. His name is Michael Butler, and he is important to me as he's an incredible recruiter, but also helped me within my own career journey. And so today we're going to get to hear a little bit of the behind the scenes of what it's like to be an executive recruiter in today's landscape. And we're going to talk about all the ways that you can make great inroads and relationships with recruiters, which is a very smart play if you're looking to be advancing in your medical sales career. So today, thank you so much for joining me, Michael. It's so nice to have you here behind the scenes. So I'm so glad you could join us. It's a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you, Claire. Really nice to join you. I know we chat often, and I think we're both on. I think we both have a LinkedIn addiction, so we cross paths on that platform daily. So really excited to join you. But yeah, so I'm Chief Growth Officer at Kester Search Group. We're a boutique medical recruiting firm. We focus on commercial positions, sales and marketing roles across the U.S., servicing the medical industry. So our clients typically manufacture a product or provide a service into the medical community. So we've got a team. We're up to 17 people now. So we've got a team of 17 based here in the Carolinas and have a presence across the U.S. So and I've personally been in recruiting since 2004. So I've been doing it a long time. Started off in medical sales recruiting actually back in 2004. So essentially been in the space for most of my career, going on 18 years now. So, but really excited to join you and see where this takes us. So thanks again for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you here. So, okay, so 2004 is when you had your entry into recruiting. What were you doing before you were in recruiting? And did you think that recruiting would be the path that you would take?
Yeah, I was, so I graduated from Clemson University, go Tigers, in 2002, and started off actually in banking. I was a mortgage banker with Bank of America, had an econ degree, got into the banking industry, enjoyed it at first, but found I didn't enjoy all the paperwork. And my colleagues here at the Search Group would laugh when they hear that because they all know I'm terrible at paperwork. So while I enjoyed helping people, I did not enjoy all the paperwork involved. So I did that for about a year and a half, and was trying to find something. I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? I was 23 years old. I like the people I work with, just didn't actually like the actual job. So really enjoyed being in a commission role, opportunity to earn as much as you can by putting in extra work and being in a performance role. So did that for about a year and a half, and then and I stayed in the role, but I spent about 6 months looking for really going on a career journey to try to figure out what I wanted to do next. So I looked at analyst roles internally at Bank of America. I looked at outside sales roles. I happened to trip across recruiting. Someone randomly called me about a job. There was a recruiter called me about a job, and whatever it was, I don't remember what it was, but yeah, I wasn't interested, wasn't a fit. And he started talking about my career, and he was like, "Hey, I'm actually have a friend that owns a medical sales recruiting firm. He's looking to hire some folks. Would you be interested in talking to him?" And so I didn't even know recruiters existed. Like literally just didn't even know it was an industry. So, interviewed with a large national medical sales recruiting firm, was really intrigued by the mix of psychology and project management and sales that are involved in recruiting. And and really, enjoy people reading, right? Always felt like I was a good people reader. And so I love psychology. And then I like probably my econ background. I just love, analytical skills required for a lot of project management responsibilities and all the different moving parts that go into recruiting. And then, of course, the sales side. I love helping others and trying to connect parties. And yeah, it was just happenstance that I got a random call, which led to a random interview in an industry I'd never heard of. And then 18 years later, here I am on a podcast with you.
Yeah, and the sweet irony of being recruited to the recruiting industry, right? And at the time, what was that company? Was it System One?
It was, yeah, System One,
Okay.
which is out of California. Yeah, they had 3 offices across the country and had one here in the Carolinas. So started with them. I was with them for 6 years, and then I started my own firm. Had that for 7 years. Went through kind of a mid-career journey for a couple of years, trying to figure out what I wanted to do after that, and ended up at Kessler Church about a year and a half ago.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so let me ask you this. What drew you or kept you in the medical sales recruiting, the executive level of that?
Really, right? It's about impacting lives. So what's really cool about what we do is we're not only impacting lives and people's careers and also people's teams, but ultimately the product they're selling, right? And so if we can make a small difference in the field of cancer oncology, that's just really rewarding. And so that's I think what's kept me in it is just feeling like I'm part of something bigger and making a very small difference in people's lives. So it's been that piece is critical, and then also just getting to learn right about all the different technologies and science and different disciplines. It's just a lot of fun because medicine's always changing, and so we'll pick up a client once a month. We pick up a client and we're like deep diving on what they do and trying to learn. That may be like similar to some of our other clients, but they're on the fringe of that tight niche where we operate. And so we'll be learning something really complex to be able to go out and tell their story to the candidate community and make sure we know our clients really well. So that constant learning and also just making a difference in people's lives is really what's kept me in it.
Yeah, I believe it. And you know what? I remember back when I was looking for work myself and working with different recruiters, there is a stark difference between working with a recruiter who is somewhat familiar with the role in the company and then coming to an outfit like yours who deep dive on those products. Because, tell me what it's like when you get a new contract and you start automatically thinking of the people in your Rolodex, your potential clients, and who would be a great fit based on what kind of technology you're introducing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, one thing I'll say is we look for partnerships with our clients, right? We're not a transactional recruiting firm. So if we have a potential client that's just looking for resumes from us and not an actual partnership where we're collaborating on a search, we're just not the right fit for someone like that. So there's plenty of recruiters that are really good at that and make a really good living doing that. But we're in it to be really strong business partners with our clients. And so with that, we do a deep dive on every new client we take on, and we want to be an extension of their team. So we're never going to know their products as well as they do, but we want to know enough to be dangerous and to get on the phone with a candidate and help them understand, like, well, how is this company different? How are their products different? Where do they fit in the marketplace? And how do they differentiate themselves from their competitors? And even when we present an opportunity, we always start big picture, like, hey, here's what the industry is, here's where they fit into the industry, and then we kind of narrow it down, kind of like an upside down pyramid. We start big and then get more focused on that particular role. So that's a big part of what we do. And then, yeah, absolutely. When we get a new search, we typically have, names will just start popping in your head right away. If I pick up a search in Chicago, Illinois, and looking for a very specific background, we often have a Rolodex of contacts already that are popping in your head, and you think, oh, I talked to Jim 6 years ago. Yeah. He'd be perfect for this. I need to call Jim. and so that happens all the time.
You know what blows my mind about that is there are well-known studies specifically by this researcher named Dunbar, and Dunbar's principle is that you can really only intimately know roughly 150 people at a time. Like, our brain can only really absorb that much information and personal detail.
Right. Unless
you're a recruiter. Honest to God, I will never forget. We would be out to dinner, and for anyone who doesn't know my background, I've was helping my family in their pharmaceutical recruiting business eons ago. And I remember so clearly that they would get a specialized search and people would come to their mind as perfect fit candidates who, like you said, you hadn't talked to in months and years, but you develop that kind of relationship with people that you really do know them, and the kind of relationship with your hiring teams. So you really do know who they're looking for, because it's not just, is this person a great candidate and do they get results? It's, are they a good fit for this specific opportunity? So I really appreciate that. I think that it's a mark of a really solid recruiting firm, and one that places probably people in really great right fit jobs. So
yeah. I think I would add to that, Claire, that I think that's one of the indicators of success in recruiting is the ability to recall that information, right?
Yeah.
So some of our newer team members, I think they think I'm crazy sometimes, right? Because they'll come in my office and I'll say, well, I have a search in Dallas, and I'll say, oh, you know what, you should call Betsy in Dallas. I talked to her in 2012. She interviewed really well for this one opportunity, and she's got a dog and 2 cats, and and she loves to go on her boat on the weekends. And then they're just like, well, you're crazy. So we have a database, right, where we keep up with stuff, but like a lot of it's just going to be very deep in your brain, and you got to be able to pull that out.
Yeah. Well, and I think that goes a long way in saying it's important to, as a candidate, right? If you're an executive level candidate and you want to really use recruiters and recruiting firms in the right way, you've got to develop that relationship. So can you tell us a little bit more about, what are some best ways that people can make and increase the, frequency with chatting with you, or is it a way that they can build rapport, or the right way to connect and follow up with you? How should people go about that so they can really allow you to get to know them as well as they can get to know you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's funny, we were talking as a team about this the other day, that if you treat a conversation transactionally, you're going to get out transactional results, right? And if you're going to build a human bond and connection with someone, then you're going to get more out of that conversation. And so, we were encouraging our team members, just make sure you're developing those relationships, building that bond, that connection, because ultimately that person, A, is more likely to follow you on this journey into a potential new job opportunity, but B, they're also more likely just to communicate with you and share their real feelings, and maybe not ghost you, right, for an interview. If they decided they didn't want to pursue it, they're going to take the time, pick up the phone and call you and let you know, hey, Claire, like, I've decided not to pursue this. So I'd say it's the exact same thing for candidates, right? You get out what you put in, and if you put in time and energy to build some relationships with recruiters, you'll remember you. Even if this search, don't look at it as like, hey, they're calling me about this one job, and treat it transactionally, like, am I interested, am I not? Like, hey, let me build a relationship with this recruiter and get to know them a little bit, so that the next time they have a great job here in New York City, they're going to call me because I took the time to talk to them, open up to them, share them where I'm headed on my career path, and that way I'm top of mind next time something comes up. So, but likewise for recruiters need to be doing that, and candidates need to be doing that. And we don't all have time for a 90-minute conversation, right? And we don't necessarily want to, we can't necessarily spend that much time. We're all busy, right? But you can take time to let your guard down a little bit and actually build a relationship with another human being.
Yes, recruiters are people too, right? Let's just say.
Oh yeah.
And it's that human-to-human relationship which really forges the bond and then builds the trust, so that when that right thing comes up, you feel comfortable throwing your weight behind a certain candidate because you've built that level of trust. So can we give people a few maybe specific things or specific ways that they can follow up with you, or, what are some things they should be asking a recruiter when they're on that call and say, you've got a quick 5 minutes to fit them in? What's that conversation looking like for someone you already know, right? Someone who's already on your Rolodex, but wanting to check in and just nurture the connection.
Yeah, I would recommend, trying to understand what types of roles do they work, right? So what is their expertise? And even within medical sales, you can say someone's niched in medical sales recruiting. But then there's niches of niches of niches of niches, right? So So we do a lot of work in oncology, right? And so I could say I specialize in medical sales, but then I could also say even more narrow, I specialize in oncology, and then even more narrow than that, I specialize in molecular diagnostics. And even more specialized than that, we specialize in startup and mid-sized companies in the molecular diagnostic space.
Mm-hmm.
And we have other markets that we work as well. But trying to understand what are the niches you actually serve, what types of roles do you typically have, and does that make sense for where I want to go in my career? So if you're in urology sales and you love surgical devices and you're talking to a recruiter who never does anything in surgical devices and they service other areas of the medical sales industry, that might not be the person, for you to build that long-term relationship with, because they serve a different market than where you want to go. And so I would say dig into what do they actually focus on, what is their expertise. There are recruiters that focus just on specific markets too. So if you live in Philadelphia and you're talking to a local recruiter that specializes in medical sales, they may do everything medical sales but focus just on their local geography. And so that's another thing too, is like geographically where are you focused, and then from a niche standpoint, what industries are you serving within medical sales. But there are generalists too. There's medical sales recruiting firms that just do anything and everything, and so they're more generalist firms. So that's and in that case, that could be if you're just kind of open to anything, you want to hear about all different types of opportunities. That could be a good avenue as well.
Yeah, they're general. They're more specialized. I tend to be in the camp of the more specialized that you are, the faster the results you may get. And I think that with anything, once we know the goal we're after, we can kind of position ourselves from all angles to go after that one target. So do you feel like there's once you find a great opportunity, right, and then you're reaching out to certain candidates, is there a timeline that you generally see? Are people getting things, getting into positions that are right fit faster because they're working with you versus a generalist kind of?
Yeah, I would say, well, a couple things I'd bring up there. It's just like myself, right? When you start your career, it might take you 2 or 3 jobs to figure out where you're headed, right, and what you want to do with your life. And so oftentimes, if we see people have moved around a lot, have a lot of job changes in a short period of time earlier in their career, we're just like, hey, that's just self-discovery, trying to figure out where I want to go in my career. And then once you get into medical sales, right, it's you kind of start over on that path and figure out, okay, now I've gotten through this magic door. What do I want to do now? And you may start off in a pretty generalist role, selling to just basic general supplies into the OR, and you may quickly realize, hey, I really enjoy working with the OBGYN surgeons, right? And so I want to focus on women's health. And so that's what I would encourage people, is like try and figure out even if you're not currently touching it, what are the areas that interest you, and how can you kind of double down your efforts to start specializing, because that's where the real opportunities are in terms of earnings and career path. Is if you can bounce around for 20 years just doing different sales roles in different industries, but then you kind of just a generalist, right, and you don't have any expertise in any one area. And so to create value for yourself and for others, and to take your career on the right path, I think specializing, as you said, is absolutely the right thing to do in most scenarios.
Mm-hmm. And I see it. I see it both ways. I see folks who get in and they enjoy that specific specialty and they ride that to the heights of their career. And then I see folks who get into a specific specialty, do it for 25 years, and then say, I've been in women's diagnostics oncology for a while. I think I'm interested in this other arena. Are there certain things about them that kind of tip you off that they are going to have an easier time with making inroads or getting the next opportunity? Are there certain things that you see that say to you, okay, this person is not only going to listen to my advice, but they're going to take it and run with it? And what does that candidate kind of look like?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. So we make a lot of assumptions, right, based on someone's resume and their career path. Oftentimes it's only information in front of us to go off of, right? So it's and we had a scenario this morning where a candidate backed out of an interview last minute, and I was like, well, of course they did. They've been doing the same job at the same company for 10 straight years, and I'm not surprised, right? Because that's very typical. That may be just a very conservative mindset, and they didn't really have a lot of pain in terms of why they would leave their current opportunity. They were, someone we approached, and so you can take like those types of assumptions and apply them to all types of candidates, right? And so so if someone's been in a particular industry and done very similar roles for 25 straight years and they're looking to pivot, that actually can add a lot of value sometimes to other organizations if they want like a fresh line of thinking in their leadership team. And they have all industry veterans in their management team, and they just want an outsider's perspective. That does happen all the time. So so that is where it can be great. And then a lot of times what we find is people may make that pivot and then they run back to safety. They run back to what they know, right? So they may go to if they've been specializing in oncology for 25 years, and then they go and try something in the urology space. If it doesn't go well, they often will, they flee back to safety, to what they know. So we do see that a lot as well. So it certainly can be done, and a lot of companies will value that, kind of unique perspective. And we see it a lot where people are like, hey, I just need something new. I want to learn a new discipline, a new science. And so the main thing is like, are they open-minded? Are they a learner? Are they, constantly trying to improve? Do they want to actually put in the time and energy and effort to try and become an expert in this new field, when they've been working for 30 straight years, developing expertise in another sector?
I'm so glad to hear you say that. I think a lot of people feel that once they make that jump, that, oh no, I'm stuck. Like I completely derailed. But it's really encouraging to hear that companies are looking favorably on that in some cases, because you do bring that additional perspective. When we've done anything for 20, 30 years, it pays to have a little bit of a, fresh take on it so that we can really move it forward and not get stuck. So I'm glad to hear that that's becoming more of the norm.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I would love to hear your perspective on the market, to just change gears a little bit.
Yeah.
So the market in general, of course, right now is a confusing place. Some industries are hemorrhaging people, a lot of tech, a lot of these large Fortune 100 companies. Where do you see medical sales in that? Because what's confusing, I think, to most is while we're getting that message, we're also getting the message of it's one of the lowest unemployment rates in, a very long time. So what are you seeing in medical sales? And do you think that you could kind of predict maybe where the next quarter or two is going to take us?
Yeah, I'll do my best. So it's unique, right? Because I don't think we've ever had inflation so high without being in an official recession, and we've never been in a recession with unemployment so low. So we have like these confusing signals in the market where we have 3.6% unemployment and I think 9.1% inflation, and those two numbers usually do not exist at the same time. So so a lot of noise out there, and a lot of people confused on what's happening in the market. So right now, like as of today, we're still seeing a really tight labor market. So there's candidates have lots of opportunities, a lot more choices. We have seen a few layoffs in the sectors that we serve. We've seen a handful of layoffs, nothing widespread. We've seen a handful of positions go on hold. But right now, it seems to be kind of, steady and strong ahead. So I think if people had expansion plans, I think they're reevaluating, that at the moment. Like, hey, we plan a Q4 expansion, and can we actually go through with that? So, but the good news is in the healthcare space, right, we have the aging baby boomers. It's going to continue to put a premium on healthcare coverage across the U.S. And also we're in a tight labor market. Even if unemployment goes up a little bit, it's still, I don't know what the unemployment rate is specifically in medical sales, but I'm sure it's even less than what the broader market is. So there's a shortage of labor, and there's going to be an increasing demand for healthcare services as the baby boomers continue to age. I think the average age of a baby boomer is in the late 50s now, I believe. So they're hitting that phase in their life, right, where they're going to need the most access to care and the most health care. So all that to say, like long term, feel good about it. Short term, feel good about it. I wouldn't say like I feel great about it, but I also still feel pretty good about it. I'm not, we just hired 2 more people, for instance, on our team, so which we wouldn't have done. And they just started last month, which, if we were really fearful, we would not have done that. So, I think for us, we're still positive, still think we're going to be good. If we were in tech, I'd be, probably a little freaked out. But, we're in healthcare, and so I think we're going to be fine.
Yeah. Well, first of all, congratulations for expanding your team. That's great. Such great news. And speaking of your team, for those that are listening today who are looking for a partner like you, where can they reach you? What's the best way?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and one thing I'll add to that, so we do a lot of work in oncology, we do a lot of work in med tech, and we also do a lot of work in the dental industry. So So those are the three markets that we serve. And we have clients that are outside of that, but that's where we spend a lot of our time focusing in terms of prospecting for new clients. So my recommendation, of course, would be LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, please, give me a follow on LinkedIn and shoot me a message to introduce yourself. You can also go to our website at kestersearch.com and track down myself and any of our team members to reach out about opportunities. We routinely have jobs that we post on there, and you can follow our company LinkedIn page. We post all of our jobs typically on our feed there. So you can go to Kester Search Group on LinkedIn and follow our company page and any one of our team members as well.
Michael, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. I'm so glad we made this podcast happen. Thank you so much, and thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Thank you for those who are watching, and be sure to connect with Michael and Kester Search over on LinkedIn. We'll see you next time.